Hello, third grade, and welcome to our practice for today. We're going to be looking at types of angles and lines. Now, I want you to grab your highlighting tool. We're going to highlight the things that we have already practiced. A ray has a starting and ending point. Has a starting point and then it continues on forever. We're just going to highlight the different rays we see in these activities. So this ray has a starting point and an ending point. We also learned about a line that continues forever and ever. Number 3 has the arrows on both sides. So that is an example of a line. And finally, a line segment. A line segment has a starting and an ending point. Number 1 gives example of 2 line segments. We also have talked about point, but we haven't labeled one specifically. A point is exactly what it is, probably the easiest one to spot. It is just a dot, and it shows one part of a whole. So let me see which one might be the best one, because some of these have points on them. Number 9, highlight number 9, and it's showing us a point right in the middle of that shape. Now I want you to scroll all the way down to the bottom because we're going to be taking some notes. And writing 3 kinds of lines. So go ahead and write lines and underline it. There are 3 kinds of lines. I wrote the wrong thing. 3 angles. We just talked about lines. There are 3 angles we are going to talk about. You get an angle when you combine 2 lines. And you add a vertex. That's where the 2 lines meet up. Go ahead and write that out. And let's grab a green color. The first kind of angle is called an obtuse angle. An obtuse angle has a vertex or a point and 2 rays. I'm actually going to change our wording here, and instead of saying 2 lines, we'll put 2 rays. Now I want you to make these rays really far apart. So we're looking at this angle right here. Now you can see that it is wider. It is very wide. That is an obtuse angle. Grab a blue. Now we're going to look at a right angle, and we'll see how that compares. A right angle. A right angle has a ray going straight up and a ray going straight to the side. One completely vertical and one completely horizontal. And we call this angle right here a right angle. And we make a square to show a right angle. This is a 90-degree angle. You might also see this written as a 90-degree angle. Now, when we compare an obtuse angle with a right angle, you can see that it is larger than a right angle. Grab a pink. The last kind of angle we are going to talk about is an acute angle. Think of something that is very cute. It's normally pretty small, right? So take a guess. Do you think the angle would be larger or smaller than 90 degrees for an acute angle? Yep, it's smaller. Now it might still be really long. Actually, I'm going to draw this a little bit more this way. But the rays are really close to each other. And the angle right here is really small. That is called an acute angle. It is smaller than a right angle. Now let's compare all of these angles from one ray to the next ray. That's the largest. Right angle from one ray to the next ray. That is in the middle, 90 degrees. And from one ray to the next ray. That is the smallest, an acute angle. So let's label some of these up at the top. This angle right here, let's look at it. Is that smaller or larger than a right angle? A right angle goes straight up and straight across. I can imagine it with my head. This would be a right angle. Well, it is smaller than a right angle. Smaller angles are acute angles. 50 degrees is smaller. 50 is smaller than 90. What about number 6? Number 6, let's imagine a right angle. Is it smaller or larger than a right angle? Larger, so that is an obtuse angle. And we see that identifier. Whenever you see that square, you know it is a right angle. This line is straight up and this line is straight to the side, straight horizontal. The last two things that we are going to label today are types of lines. We have 2 types of lines, and we'll be looking at them more in our next section. I want you to box these 2 lines: parallel lines and intersecting lines. Now, maybe you've heard the word intersection when you're driving. That is when 2 roads come together at a point. They can look kind of sideways like this, but they intersect. This part right here is the intersection. That's where they cross. Number 2 is showing that these 2 lines are crossing. That's an example of intersecting lines. Go ahead and write that down. Pause the video if you need more time. Intersecting lines. Now the opposite of that are parallel lines. Those are 2 lines that would continue on forever and ever and ever, and they would never cross. Parallel lines would continue forever and never cross. So those are parallel lines. I like to remember parallel lines because it has 2 L's in it. And if those were 2 lines, those would never cross. The way I remember intersecting lines is there's a T, and a T crosses. It has a point of intersection. After you are done taking these notes, we are not going to do this bottom part, so you can cross it out. Make sure you have your notes on